Chapter 6. San Bernardino Valley trapped the July heat. If John stayed near his apartment, the elevated temperature urged laziness. However, the mountain area surrounding Clearcreek was cooler. John found he could escape the physical discomfort of the city by indulging in research, examination, and learning. Through spending additional time at work, his summer became bearable. The weeks continued to slip by, and John saw improvement in his patients. He grew to understand them. In his office, a plaque held the words of 𝗪𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗪, one of the great researchers of schizophrenia. It read, "The schizophrenic hides a warm and human heart behind his sometimes shocking affective behavior. We must know how to approach the schizophrenic. We must enter and feel with him his vision of reality. We must never relinquish this endeavor." This insight, this wisdom, drove John forward and inspired his efforts to alleviate the suffering of those under his care. His hard work got results. Some patients opened up, their aloofness fading. Other staff members noticed. In fact, Dr. Hunter, the group psychiatrist, went out of his way to stop by John's office one day. "Sanders?" The doctor stayed in the doorway, scratching his dark auburn beard. "Just wanted to say, we're impressed with you. You've been a great addition to Clearcreek." Such praise made John's cheeks warm. "Thanks. Seen some good improvements. Admirable advances with your patients. Some changes that I dare say have come strictly from your psychotherapy." John feasted on these words. "I hope." Then he turned the praise back. "And you certainly deserve credit for what's happened with Fawn." Dr. Hunter smiled. "We finally found the right meds for her. It's been a struggle, but I think we're onto something now. I'm happy to see her so amiable. She's come a long way." "That's what we like to see." The lines around Dr. Hunter's eyes creased from a smile. "Makes the job worth the hard times." "Sure does." John smiled back. "Hopefully, they all can get to that point." "Yes," his tone softened. "We certainly hope so." Dr. Hunter's words left John full of confident energy. At the appointed group time, he looked at the individuals before him and admired the maturing changes. Donna had been relocated and was adjusting well. In her place, Dale King had joined the group. Within weeks, his attitude was changing and he was seeking recovery. Also, the other members were taking positive steps, each one developing in their own way. The entire unit shined with growth, especially since, at that moment, all eyes were on him. He smiled back at them and said, "Since this weekend is the family barbecue, we're going to focus today on family interaction. Let's first explore how you can mentally prepare for this upcoming—" "What's the big deal?" Cameron interrupted. "They can come by any time they want." "No," Maxwell said. "They can't come by any time they want. It's policy that they're not to visit us during our scheduled therapy sessions." John nodded at both Maxwell and Cameron. "There is a difference. If your family's following the recommended guidelines, they should have kept their visits with you short. They were asked not to dwell on any challenges you as a family have struggled with in the past, and we as a staff encourage them to use that time for short, positive exchanges. Plus, it's just you with your visitors. However, at the barbecue, you'll be with a large group in a different setting and for a longer period of time. There's a possibility that previous issues might come up. Now, whether real or imaginary, you might perceive some of the concerns you've struggled with in the past. Let's talk about some of those concerns." Fawn was the first to answer. "Last Christmas, when I almost killed myself. That was hard. They'll never forgive me for that." John offered her a sensitive smile. "Thanks for sharing, Fawn. Your families have also been undergoing therapy. Not quite as intense as yours, but still enough that we hope together you'll all be able to resolve some of those issues that still remain." She shook her head. "They were very angry. I don't think we'll be able to talk about it." "Fawn, in time you will. Maybe not necessarily at the barbecue. For most of you, The barbecue isn't the right setting for dealing with some of these large issues. But it's also good to be open about things, to acknowledge your previous actions might have hurt them. You don't need to dwell on it, but you don't need to disregard feelings either. Remember and even remind your family that when you reach outpatient status, the expectation is you'll join your family for certain therapy sessions. But even right now, with you developing stronger coping skills and them learning to understand your illness and needs, you're already at a good starting point toward growing together again as a family. Dale spoke up. I have a challenge. Please, John smiled at him. Go ahead. My mom wants me home immediately, and my father hates that I'm sick. He wants me healed. And what do you want, Dale? That's what he doesn't understand. He wants me to control things, and if I can't, he's angry because he can't control me either. He doesn't get it. I want to be healed too. I want to be able to live my life. But due to my messed up head, I don't know what's going to happen. Maxwell spoke up. Apparently, Dale, you're on stage 2. Right, Dr. Sanders? He's experiencing hope, but it's mixed with grief, self-doubt, anxiety, frustration, and pride. Next, he'll be on the awakening when he can realize he's somebody, and from there, he could gain confidence and be able... Thanks, Maxwell, John said. Dale, your parents need to understand your illness, as do you. Maxwell's right. Since you've been here, you've made some great changes. Changes that are required for you to pull through this. In time, you'll be able to enjoy life again. But all this takes a lot of time and dedicated effort. My family's very eager to see Fawn and me, Frank said. Especially since they know I'll be coming home soon. Both of us, Fawn said. John corrected. Your schedules are a little different, but you're doing excellent, Fawn. She gave John a puzzled look, then looked at Frank. When do I get to go? We'll examine your time and goals, John inserted. We'll look at all the factors during your next individual session. Arnie raised his hand and began speaking. My only family is my aunt. Will she be coming? John asked. Last time I talked to her on the phone, she promised me she'd bathe in antibacterial soap, and that her clothes will be freshly washed, bleached, and pressed with a warm iron. She guarantees she'll not be contaminated. I told her she also needs to wear sterilized gloves, then she can come. Why don't you worry about us? Frank asked. The poison, it comes from outsiders, those who have been out there. None of you have been there. No one will come see me, Rebecca said. Everyone looked at her. Maybe you're better off, Cameron smiled. Mary Jean thinks they should. Mary Jean's kids will come. Maybe even bring Mary Jean's grandbabies. Mary Jean would like that. Perhaps you can be around them too. Mary Jean would let... Why won't they come? Fawn asked Rebecca. They're dead. All of them? Frank asked. Why doesn't your husband come? Maxwell asked. No. Rebecca's hands clutched around her bundle. But you have one? Thomas asked innocently. No. She rocked the blanket in her arms. You did? Maxwell reminded. No. She looked down into her bundle, her lips fighting to give it a smile. Weren't you married? Maxwell asked again. I never had a husband. She turned away from Maxwell, her free hand fussing with the top of the blanket. Later that afternoon, John visited Rebecca. She stood at her window, but she wasn't singing. The blue blanket rested in her arms, but her body remained motionless. John joined her and looked out past the glass. A group of sparrows perched among the tree branches replaced her absent lullaby with their song. A few squirrels, searching for nourishment, darted around the base of the great pines. Along the property's east side, the creek reflected rays of light. Finally, his words cut into the tranquil moment. Looking at anything specific? Just watching for it. John drew back. You're watching for something? When she didn't answer, he tried again. What are you watching for? She didn't answer, but kept looking beyond the window. He too fixed his gaze on the world below, his mind thinking. Her voice surprised him. We're watching for his daddy to come home. His daddy? No answer. Is his daddy part of your family? Again, no answer. What else? John said. We're watching for some kids for Robert to play with for when he gets older. She stroked a corner of the blanket. Maybe we can find a house to live in, a house that's all our own. They stood side by side, watching what took place beyond the glass. Hey, Sanders. In the east hallway, a fellow doctor with limp flaxen hair hit John on the shoulder. How's life in the fast lane? Not waiting for an answer, the doctor continued walking. Dr. Lumber, John said. Wait, do you have a minute? I've been wanting to talk to you. Sure, the doctor replied while his feet kept walking. John followed, matching the other man's quick stride. It's about Rebecca Brownell. Sure, I know Rebecca. Dr. Lumber noticed his shirt hanging out on the left side. He stopped to tuck in the quarter. She was under your care for 2 years. 2 years? Whoa, I thought maybe 18 months. I don't know. Time just moves right on by. Hey, you, Anita woman, Dr. Lumber called out. A few yards away, Anita headed into her office, but stopped at the sound of her name. When she saw Lumber, she rolled her eyes at him. Yes? Papers, Dr. Lumber said. They're on my desk somewhere. They're almost to you. Lumber, they're always late. I know, but they're coming. If I held my breath, I'd have been dead a long time ago, Lumber man, she said, her tone revealing disapproval at his earlier reference to her. Get them to me as soon as you can. She disappeared into her office. Dr. Lumber's pace turned into a slow jog as he made his way up the east stairwell. John followed. About Rebecca. Oh, yes, Rebecca, Dr. Lumber said, stretching his neck to glance up the flights of stairs. How is she? I think I'm making some good connections with her. I think there's been progress, good results. Yep, keep it up. Dr. Lumber left the stairs and headed down the hall of the second floor. Is there anything you could tell me? John called after him. Anything you found that helped her? Nope, I don't think so. Nothing at all? Are you sure? Well, Dr. Lumber paused, then turned and finally looked at John. You want help with Rebecca? Just some suggestions? He scratched at his head. Maybe it's not me. What? Then he shrugged. Maybe I'm not your man. I'm not sure I understand. It's not me, he said a little more boldly. I'm not the person you want to be asking. At least not about Rebecca. Why is that? Thought I knew what I was doing. I saw progress too. Things were good, so I thought. But then I got the talk. The talk? Uh-huh, okay. He turned back to the hall. Well, have a good day. No, John said. Tell me what you mean. He slowed his pace, tapped at his watch while giving a quick glance down both sides of the hallway, then took a step back toward John. Look, Dr. Gravers via Dr. Landerson didn't like my style. Decided things weren't working. Sometimes there's a good match, and other times, well... Dr. Lumber shrugged his shoulders. Then with a cheerful smile he said, Appreciate you, Sanders. Keep up the good work. So you're saying you didn't work well with Rebecca? He took a step back. I've got it all figured out. Took time, but I'm secure now. Just fine. So what suggestions do you have for me? He made another scan of the hallway. His feet shifted as if ready to move, but his torso leaned toward John. Stay away from administration. Let them do their own thing. Don't like how they operate? Don't try to change it. You'll only be hurting yourself. Accept. For the sake of sanity, just accept. A nurse had entered the hallway. For Rebecca? John asked. What can you tell me that might help Rebecca? Oh, yes. Lumber smiled, his body shifting upright, his feet gradually moving away from John. Rebecca, painting, art therapy. She once told me she had an interest in art, portraits in fact. On a good day, shared a story about her father bringing in the best instructor he could find. There you go. His volume increased as the gap widened between them. Give it a try. See how it goes. I wanted to do it myself. Dr. Lumber turned down the hall. But I guess I didn't have the chance.